Viewers will welcome you to this live discussion, which we're having with our esteemed guests who are here with us in the set. I want to say a very big thank you to you for joining us this time. We're taking a look at a burning issue in this present time. And our theme for this series is keeping safe in the face of COVID 19. I'm privileged to have one of our parishioner, um, an esteemed practitioner in the person of Dr. Mrs. Kemi Udukoya, Associate Professor, Department of Community Health and Primary Care, College of Medicine, University of Lagos. She's also a consultant of public health physician of also that same university. I want to welcome you, ma. Thank you so much for joining us. God will continue to bless you, bless the work that you do. Also with us is our beloved brother, also a parishioner of BAM Church. Also joining us is also a volunteer physiotherapist of our BAM Church clinic in person of Damilola Ashaju. Want to welcome you, sir. Thank you so much. So quickly, we go to it, Dr. Udukoya, for you to give us um, a peep into what you have for us as touching COVID 19 based on this topic, keeping safe in the face of COVID 19.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. COVID 19. COVID has come. Unfortunately, I think it's about 5 or 6 months, 5 months going on 6 months now. And it has changed the world in unimaginable ways. COVID is a respiratory tract droplet infection. What does that mean? It's an infection that tends to come in when people breathe or when they come in contact with what we call respiratory droplets, which they come in contact either by touching their noses, touching their eyes, or touching their mouths. And when this comes into the body, it has a way of infecting the body such that the lungs and the respiratory tract and all that's the area where we breathe will become infected. And in some cases, it actually goes beyond the respiratory tract. And in some severe cases, can cause death. So the disease is here. It's in almost every country of the world as we know it today. It's in every state of Nigeria except Cross River State. And even in Cross River State, we're not quite certain whether it's not there or whether it hasn't been found. So COVID is here. It's in the world. It's in Nigeria. It's in Lagos. However, it is possible to be safe in spite of the fact that COVID is here with us. And hopefully those are some of the things that we'll be talking about here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me go to Mr. Damilola. I just want you to, from your own angle of physiotherapy, speak to us about what we can do during this COVID era.
Thank you so much for this. Okay, so I'm going to come from the angle of activity. So there has been so many different policies that have been put in place, especially social distancing, where we have to stay home, don't go out, don't go to work, and this and that. As a physiotherapist, I'm here to educate you that in as much as we are staying home or we are limited to our going out and our activities, we still need to be active. We still need to do exercises because the exercises have a lot of health benefits for us, and it also prevents a lot of heart diseases and other issues that we might come across. So I'll be shedding more light on that today.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Duka. Let me now come to you. I know you are also part of the board of COVID-19 in Lagos State. As a church in BAM Church, we are looking forward to the reopening and all the guidelines that Lagos State has given. What are the specific safety measures that you want? First, let's take it the elderly first. You want them to actually take. Particularly, we know that the Lagos State have said that those from 65 above, should stay at home. Let me even take it from there. Is that decision a good one at this time, starting at COVID-19 and the elderly?
Thank you very much, sir. With COVID-19, there are some specific groups of people that we consider to be vulnerable. What do we mean by vulnerable? These are people that, if perchance they get COVID, they are more likely to get severe forms of COVID, and they are more likely to die from COVID. Now, what this means is that it's not everybody that has COVID that gets infected or exposed to COVID that will come down with obvious forms of the disease. In fact, most people that are exposed to COVID may not even have symptoms or may show mild symptoms. However, two groups of people are known to be very vulnerable. The elderly, people that are above 65 years of age, particularly people that are above 80 years of age, and also people that have underlying health conditions like diabetes and hypertension. Now, we have some people who are not only elderly, but they are elderly, diabetic, and maybe even hypertensive. So those kinds of people are even more vulnerable, or would I say the most vulnerable group. In many churches, and a good example would be our church, we know that our demographics in our church, and what I mean by that is that the age structure of the people in the church tends to be a little bit like older, consisting more of older people. We don't want a situation whereby people would come to church and would get exposed to COVID-19 in the house of God. So it is our duty and our responsibility to make sure that we protect the vulnerable parishioners in our churches, particularly when we know that they are elderly or they have underlying medical conditions. The Lagos State government has issued guidelines, and I would like to believe that those guidelines had they were concerned about protecting the elderly people. The reason they said elderly people shouldn't come to church is not because they don't want the elderly people to worship, but we know that when they come to church, they are more likely to interact with other people, and the possibility of getting infected becomes higher. That is not to say that people that are younger than 65 cannot be infected. So as a church, we must put in place safety measures. We need to understand that COVID infection, it doesn't jump on people. I like to use that word. If I'm standing here and he's standing there, the COVID is not going to fly all the way from me and then come to him. COVID infection is by contact, or by contact either with somebody that's infected or with the surfaces that could be infected. So the very first thing is, if we can stay away such that we don't have close contact with people that are infected, we've already solved one problem. Our chances of infection are reduced by half. Then the second thing is to make, and the way we can do that is by maintaining physical distances of at least 2 meters. The second thing is we don't want to touch infected surfaces. For instance, let's just give maybe an example. This microphone has COVID on it. For instance, if I touch it and then I don't sanitize my hands, or I don't wash my hands, and then the next thing is I just do something like this or do like that, or or touch my face, then it is possible that I could be transmitting or transferring that infection from those surfaces to my face. And one way of dealing with that is by making sure, we call that hand hygiene, making sure that your hands are as clean as possible at every point in time, and trying to reduce your hand to face contact. And those are, those are two main principles, but of course there are others, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me speak with our first therapist. Now that the elderly are home, what are the things you can um, say to them, or what information can you give them to be able to stay healthy at this time?
Okay, so first of all, it's quite unfortunate that our elderly people have to stay at home during this pandemic. But in as much as we need to stay at home, they still need to stay healthy and safe. And so, in that light, the church has been able to come up with an initiative called the Fit Factory. So, the Fit Factory is a physiotherapy body or a brand or a company that we deal with habilitation, rehabilitation, dance aerobics, gym, sports, and women's health, and even the geriatrics. So geriatrics like the older people. So we've designed we've designed a routine exercise regimen for the older people, and even laying emphasis on their nutrition, because nutrition also plays a very very vital role in the elderly now, considering that they are majorly going to be living sedentary lifestyle. Many of them have been battling one issue or the other. Let's say the hypertension, diabetes, and this and that. Many of them don't have the access to go to the hospital for checkup or for their treatments, so they are more or less left stranded. But with our initiative here, we've been able to come up with something that they can tune into and they can even tap into. So we have our platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So and even on YouTube. So we'll be dropping tips and exercise regimen that they can also follow. If not for the COVID, we usually have our exercise regimen and our treatments in the church clinic, but yeah, we just have to make do with what the government has laid down for us, and I think we can take it from there.
Okay, I just want our parishioners to know that part of this is we're concerned about your total being. We want everyone to be safe, and that is what our doctors are informing us. And I think just based on what Mr. Damilola has told us, we'll also be using the social media to be able to put out these things, the kind of exercises we can do, the things we can do so that we can get safe. Now, let me come to Dr. Odukoya. Now, the children also is one group also that from the guidelines have said, oh, please, people from 16 years below should stay at home. Why are the children vulnerable?
Thank you very much, sir. One thing we need to remember at this point in time is that there are many people that will have COVID infections and that will not show any signs and symptoms. And what this means is that they look healthy, they don't have headache, they don't have cough, if you ask them, how are you? They say, I'm fine. The people that are more likely to have this experience, we call this as asymptomatic, meaning no symptoms, are younger people. Younger people can be infected with COVID, but they may not show signs and symptoms. Now, the danger in this is that they are what we call agents of spread, meaning that because they don't know they are sick, they move around. You know, many times when we are sick, we tend to stay in one place, we don't move around. But because they don't know they are sick, they move around. And in moving from person to person and place to place, they may be infecting, people as they go around. Children particularly, it is difficult to explain to children physical distancing, or to tell a child not to hug grandma or not to hug grandpa or things like that. So we find that allowing children into a space where they are vulnerable people, it's possible that those children might be the ones actually spreading the COVID unknowingly, because they may not know they are infected, others may not know they are infected, and because they look healthy, we may want to, reduce the physical distancing rules, and that can infect the vulnerable people like our elderly grandmas and grandpas, and in some cases even cause death.
Thank you so much. I think this is really educative. That it's possible they could be healthy and yet showing no sign or symptoms, and yet they could still be an agent of spread. So I also like to use this medium to appeal to our parents to show understanding that when the church resume, please let those age bracket which we have mentioned, 16 years below, let them stay at home. Let's keep them safe. Before I come to Dami, let me also ask the youth. The youth now, what any risks at all for the youth?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Now, the youth are not known to be as vulnerable as elderly people. But that is not to say that we have not seen young people come down with COVID or even die of COVID. But we have most of the deaths, most of the severe infections in people that are older and in people that have underlying medical conditions. The challenge that we have with the young people is that, just like children, many young people who may have COVID may have no signs or no symptoms, or maybe just mild signs that you can easily ignore. For instance, it's not everybody that has a headache that will go to the hospital. Some people, they will even have headache, they won't even tell anybody. You just manage it and hope that it goes away. So even the person in the house will not know that you are having a headache, or will not know that you are feeling a little bit weak and all of that. And then the challenge also with the young people is that, because they don't know, they may have COVID infection, they may not know they have COVID infection, and just like we said with the children, they can serve as agents of spread. But the difference between young people and children is because the youth are more mature. The youth, I think, can understand to a certain extent. So we can explain to the young people, you look healthy, please maintain social physical distancing. Don't go closer than 2 meters close to people, particularly people that you so care about, like the vulnerable people in your family. So it's easier to have young people enforce some of these public health measures like hand washing and those kinds of things. But nevertheless, we need to understand that we might have young people who are infected with COVID and don't know, and can serve as agents of spread.
Okay. But I mean, now let's go to you. The youth are known to have energy. They move from one place to the other. You have mentioned the Fit Factory. Okay, how can they be part of it? And I know there's something about the immune system that can help. So what can the youth do at a time like this using physiotherapy?
Okay, so first of all, I will say that there are many of the youths that still don't believe that COVID is real.
Yeah.
I think we can start from there, because there are many people that will tell you that they are just giving us live scores, giving us the numbers. I've not seen anybody that has the virus, this and that. Like our guest clearly stated, she said you can have the virus and be asymptomatic.
Yeah.
Now, one major thing that the youth need to understand is that they need to boost your immune system adequately. Now, many of us are very guilty of this. Our nutrition is very, very poor. Many people eat once a day, and even our meals are not balanced. I think we can start from there. So nutrition will help to boost the immune system. Also, many of us just eat, and we don't burn in. We don't burn out the calories that we take in. You can't be taking in calories and not burn it out. You are not managing your weight well. That one you're also going to come down with issues. Also, during this COVID-19 pandemic, I also want to advise the youth that fine, you might see this as an opportunity for you to catch up with the movies that you've not watched in a while, and the series that you missed and all, but you should also understand that you are going to benefit from exercises a lot. And one very important thing that I need to point out is the role of the issue of mental health. There are so many youths that are getting frustrated and they are getting depressed because many people are not making money during this period. That's one very key thing that COVID-19 has brought upon the youths. So one way to work on that is that the body and the mind, they work together. Exercise helps exercise helps your mind, actually, because when you exercise, the brain releases chemicals that help you to relax. So it erases issues of anxiety and depression. So I would advise the youth during this period that You should try to unwind. Yes, you are not allowed to go out to places, to social gatherings, to party and all, but we still need to socialize. You don't necessarily have to go out before you socialize. We have social media platforms where you can interact and all, and you stay off toxic trends like what we've been seeing lately, so that you don't add to your mental state again. So I think that should be that for that. Then for the fit factory, like I said, for the elderly, we have an exercise regimen for the elderly. We've already started dropping exercises for the youth that they can tap in. Likewise, health talks. So you can also tune into the Fit Factory to see what we have in stock for the youth, and I'm sure they will benefit from it.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Dr. Ukana, let me go to it. Um, um, Mr. Damilola mentioned something which I think it's not just the youth, the elderly. There are still people who will still tell you that COVID-19 is not real. That have you seen anyone who has COVID-19? So let me push that to you as the doctor who actually works with this board. Let me still ask you: is it real?
Thank you very much, sir. To people who don't believe it, I can only pray that your eyes will never see it.
Amen.
Because if you see it once, you will know that COVID is real. It's not a figment of anybody's imagination. There is a virus out there. That virus is infecting people and it's killing people. And the sad thing about COVID infection is that because it involves contact, if one person has it, if a husband has it, he's likely to give it to his wife. If the grandma and the grandpa live in the house, they too they can have it. Then you have the children. So because it's a disease of contact, it is more likely to affect people, and the people that they most closely interact with many times are people that they care about the most. So for those who don't believe in COVID, I would only say that COVID is not a figment of anybody's imagination. It's an acute viral infection. Thankfully, it does not kill everybody that it comes in contact with, but for those that have severe forms of COVID, it actually kills. In Nigeria now, our case fatality rate, meaning that the number of people that die of COVID when they have the infection, is about 3 in 100. And what that means, and that is very large. And what that means is that if there are 100 people that have COVID, 3 of them will die. We all know we are going to die at some point, but this is death before their time. I mean, why would anybody want to die, when, you didn't really have to die? So my advice to people is prevention is better than cure. We don't want a situation whereby we say, oh, had I known, oh, if I didn't know. There are people who today, and I've heard many stories, because I am a doctor, I am aware of people that I know that have died because of exposure to COVID. And when you hear of these kind of cases, you actually know that these things, they are real. So as much as we can, we need to know that this disease actually does kill. And prevention is most often better than cure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Let me say to our parishioners again, it's also part of why we're reaching out to you, that the coronavirus, or what we call the COVID-19, is real. I, as a priest, I, as a vicar, can say to you that I can point to 1, 2, 3 people that have been exposed, and I have say about a family that they have recovered. I have people also that we have lost to this virus, and it's to say to you that this is real. If at this point you still have a doubt in your heart, please, Dr. Ujukoya, who also works with a committee of that, is saying to you, I'm also adding my voice to you. Please believe it, that COVID-19 is real. Doctor, I'll still go over to you. Then, those now who have experienced, who actually have been diagnosed to have COVID-19, for some people, with the hype that has gone about the virus, is it really a death sentence?
Thank you very much, sir. COVID-19 is definitely not a death sentence. Majority of people who get infected with COVID don't die. In fact, 80% of people who are infected with COVID, it will just be like a mild illness. Out of that 80%, 20% will have a severe illness, many times requiring hospitalization, sometimes requiring intensive care. But in that 20%, most of them will survive. They will go to the hospital and they will come out and they will be fine. But we now have a small number that may, for one reason or the other, may not be able to survive. So COVID is not a death sentence. When people hear that if you get a diagnosis of COVID, there's nothing to be afraid of. The only thing you can do, just like my brother has said here, which is what everybody is asked to do, as much as possible, let us do things that boost our immunity. Eating fresh fruits and vegetables, things that are high in vitamins and high in minerals, and avoiding the junk food, making sure we are physically active, and things like that would make our immune systems at least better able to fight infection. And of course, by the grace of God, with prayers, we pray that, for those who are infected, we pray that, they don't become people that have severe infections, and more importantly, people that end up dying of COVID.
Okay. Just before I take but I think let me also say to our esteemed viewers, it's time for you, please send your questions to our Instagram page, so that we can also take some of your questions. Those joining us on Facebook, please, you can just check those handles and please give us your questions with our esteemed guests that are here with me in the studio. We'll be able to give their answers too. Mr. Damilola, this physiotherapy thing, particularly, I'm interested with the exercise thing. And I'll just ask you, as part of keeping safe, um, what can we do to be consistent in doing exercises? Because that's one thing. We start at a point, we we stop. So how can we keep it going?
Okay. The most important thing for you or for everyone is that know your body. That is the number one rule. Know your body. Now, you won't want to step into a gym, and on your first visit into the gym, you go and lift a 50 kg weight. You are doing more harm than good. So when you know your body and you know what works for you and you know your limits, you won't do more than yourself. Now, exercise is graded. It's different from our normal physical activities that will go from, like I trekked from here to the office, or I walked from the class to this and this. Exercise is graded. You can start with a repetition of 5. You upgrade to a repetition of 10, like that, 15, 20, and that. Now, it's very difficult to keep up with an exercise regimen. You need to be disciplined enough. Especially those that will tell you, I don't like the way I'm looking, people are body shaming me, I need to lose weight, I need to do this, I need to do that. And they start, and after 2 weeks, I cannot come and kill myself. You can't achieve your goal that way. So one thing that works is, I usually advise people, I think working in groups, exercising in groups helps.
Okay.
So if you think you are not so disciplined enough to keep up with a regimen, you can form a group of at least 2 or 3 people. And the three of you cannot be so indisciplined not to be able to keep up with the regimen. So at least if you have a group of 3, you start your regimen and you progress gradually. Now, before you start your exercises, it is very important that you see your doctor or you see your physiotherapist, because they need to check your vitals. You need to know your vitals, your heart rate, they need to know the state of your heart, your lungs, and majorly all your organs You can't be having issues with your knee joints and say you want to do some certain exercises or high impact landing and all. So you need to go for a checkup to know, okay, doctor, how am I faring? Can I go on with this routine? Can I go on with that routine before you now proceed to whatever you want to do? I think that's fine.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, working in groups. I know a lot of times people have talked about dancing in groups, but I know with this COVID thing, let me still advise people as we go in groups, let's try to maintain social distancing, which is very, which is very important. I know trying to keep up with this will not be easy. Okay, one of our questions is coming in. I'll just go over to Doctor. It says, what distinguishes COVID-19 from other respiratory diseases?
Thank you very much. COVID-19, as with other respiratory diseases, we can get it by close contact, and like I said before, by touching contaminated surfaces. However, one thing that makes COVID-19 unique is the level of contagiousness, or if I may use that word, it is very infectious, meaning that somebody may be sitting down and have another kind of respiratory tract infection. He may just cough a little bit, but nobody may get it. But with COVID, the rate at which COVID moves from person to person has been alarming. I mean, take for instance, in the world, as at November of last year, we didn't have any case of COVID. Right now, there are documented more than 6 million cases. I mean, how does one disease go from 0 or 1 to 6 million in less than 6 months? Most other respiratory tract infections don't move that fast, don't spread that fast. And that's actually what makes COVID unique and makes us very concerned about COVID, because it is very contagious, highly infectious disease, and because it can cause death.
Thank you so much. In fact, there was just a question that I'm seeing on the screen. I want to thank all our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I think, okay, this is you'll be our vicar now. So, in trying to get this question, say, what is your take on the proposed consideration? Are really concerned. What is your take on the proposed constitution on school resumption?
Thank you very much, and thank you for asking that question. The challenges we have with schools, even though, like we said, young people are less likely to have severe forms of COVID, we are concerned about young people because it is difficult to maintain physical distancing in schools. How do you tell a 5-year-old not to touch this neighbor who is his friend, who has taken his biro and he wants to collect his biro back from his fellow 5-year-old? It's difficult to implement. So for the schools to reopen, we need to, and I'm sure the government is working on this, to really sit down. It can't be business as usual. To sit down and ask ourselves, how do we want to define the new normal for schools in a practical way and in a feasible way that would make sure that the children don't become unduly exposed, and more importantly, that those children don't take that exposure home and infect their parents, their grandparents, or other people in the homes.
Okay, I must come to Mr. Damilola. Children, we must not forget them. What exercises can the children do, at this time, of COVID-19? Yeah.
Okay, can I answer that last question first?
Yes.
Before I move
Okay.
to this? Okay. So concerning the reopening of schools, for me, I think if the government is not going to put good policies on ground, that okay, fine. Like let me give an instance. We have university students that have hostels that are so congested. How do these students want to practice physical distancing in the hostels when in a room you have boys like 12 or 11 boys sleeping in the same room?
Yeah.
So I don't, honestly, for me, I think it's an all or none rule. It's either all of them are at home, or rather all of them are in school, and the government puts in place policies that, okay, you're having only 2 people in the room, and maybe final year students just come do your project defense and graduate or whatever, or nobody resumes school. That's it. Then moving on to the children. Actually, number one thing is I will advise parental guidance. because many of the children, they need to learn how to do these exercises at least from their parents. Their parents can demonstrate, okay, do this, and do this. Now, for children, we do more of play therapy for them. So I know children like colors, videos, music. So we have we can do more of the dance classes for them. We already planned that in our Fit Factory because we already categorized our client base into groups: the children, the youths, and the elderly. So for the children, we'll do more of play therapy and dance therapy. So now that we are all home, we'll still make use of the videos. So our parents can watch videos, demonstrate to their children, and I think we are good.
Okay. Dr. Dad, this is coming to you. What is the stand of the church? Okay, on the reopening of churches. For me, as a clergyman, I would say, is it the monetary consideration now, or what are the other things? What is the stand on the church on the reopening?
Well, thank you, sir. I think I would have to give my own stand as a public health practitioner. Vika will give his stance as a minister. But from a public health standpoint, we need to make sure that our churches are safe spaces. People come to church, they want to fellowship, they want to commune with God, but we don't want a situation whereby the churches become a point of spread of infection. So if we are able to get our churches to the point where we can guarantee them to be safe spaces, by all means, why not? It would be great to open the churches. But if we can't do that, then we need to wait until we are able to get to that point. And then when we do get to that point, people can come to church and worship and know that there will be no fear of getting a terrible contagion while they're in church.
Thank you so much. Yeah, with our stand, you see, a lot of times people talk about money being a major factor. But I think first, like all of us know, it should be safety first. Why make money, then spend it again, trying to get the person to come back? And just like Dr. case study. Yes, we have made plans. I want to thank some of our parishioners and also thank the local government who had come to fumigate this church, every part of it, trying to get all other things ready for us to reopen. But I must say this: I know people are excited to come back, but I think it's also good, and part of this program is if you are sick, it is good to see a doctor or stay at home. And if you want the pastors, the clergy to pray for you, don't come at a time where others are coming and put the life of other people at risk. And that is, I think, where because you can't take healing away from the church. But if you know that it is something that is contagious, please, because we are all people of different faiths, our faith varies. Please, the most important thing is I shouldn't put my neighbor at risk. So we all look forward to other guidelines we'll give towards the reopening of churches come June 21. But please, we must make sure that we keep ourselves safe and also keep others safe. Let's take this other question. How do the effects of quarantine or isolation influence people in times of mental health? Let me start with Dr. Dukoya again. When we're in isolation,
mental health,
how does it
isolation,
affect? Yeah.
quarantine. Human beings are not wired to be alone. There is something in the human being that craves social connection and craves physical connection. Some of the challenges of quarantine and isolation, which stipulate that people should stay away from others, are difficult to practicalize. However, there are some little things that we can do. First of all, we need to know that when people are in quarantine or isolation, it is for their own benefits and for the benefit of those around them. Knowing that it's not forever. Okay, a child is not allowed to hug his mommy. A child is not allowed to go and visit grandma or grandpa and all of that. It's not forever. It's just for a short period of time. So knowing that it's for a short period of time is good. Then, as much as we can, we need to use technology to our advantage. Yes, we may not be able to see people physically, but we thank God for WhatsApp video. We thank God for FaceTime. And then we look at the phone. How are you? Good afternoon. And I think as much as possible, when people are in quarantine, that is when we need that social connection even more. So those of us who were not calling our parents or calling our friends every day or every other day, because we're busy at work, some of us, we may not talk to our friends in 1 year. Now is the time to pick up that phone, call people, find out how are they doing, what is wrong, are you okay, have you eaten, are you all right? And those little things actually help to reduce that terrible effect of quarantine and isolation.
Thank you so much. Okay, Brother 𝐂𝐸𝐾, so please give us your thoughts.
The effects of isolation or quarantine on the mental health. Number one, I think, is the fear of infection. Everybody is scared. Like, okay, what if I have the virus? What if I go to this place and I'm vulnerable to having the disease or something? Even at some point, you sneeze and you're like, eh? People around there are like, I mean, you have the virus now and stuff like that. Okay, so that's it. Then I think another effect is that inadequate information, particularly about the purpose of the quarantine. You can't just lock people at home and expect them not to do their usual activities. You think they are normal. Definitely, at one point or the other, it will affect their mental health. So I think the government thought it wise to actually ease the lockdown a bit, so at least we can go back to our usual routine once in a while. Then we also have frustration. Yes, especially among the youths. Many people are worried. There are some people that they've lost their jobs already, and some are thinking, I'm losing my job. How do I get a new job after quarantine or after the whole pandemic and this and that? And there are so many people that they've spent their savings and all this. It has really taken a whole lot of it took the whole world by surprise. I'm not sure anybody saw this coming. So you can't blame anybody that is facing any depression or anything. We just have to keep encouraging ourselves and to make people see reasons why when there is life, there is hope.
Thank you so much. I really want to say, in terms of mental health, I know there's a lot that spirituality really has to do here in terms of this, and that actually one of the effects that people have talked about the effect of the reopening of churches. I know, in as much as I feel for a lot of the elderly people who are retired, who see church as a means of that social bond that has tended to keep them from mental, depression. But to also assure them that the church will also continue to do what it can to also reach out to them, and to say that, Doctor, you have said something good. God didn't create us to live in this world alone. I think people must come to terms with that. Some people say, no, it's my life. I want to live it the way I want. I think for God to have made us, we're millions, is because God wants us to relate with one another, and I think it will go a long way. Say hi to somebody, talk to somebody. If it's now time, send a chat to somebody, ask somebody how are you doing. Those things are therapeutic in itself. It go a long way to heal us, and I pray that we'll be more connected. There's a question coming from one of our viewers that says, will the church continue to stream the services online? they say it's for me. It's for the vicar to answer. I think we've come to a time to agree that the online thing has come to stay. Even in this reopening or this easing down guidelines, we still have in mind that we must take care of those who are 65 above, who will be at home because they are also part of the church. So the children too, we must also be able to reach out to them. And I must thank our Sunday school for the initiative which they have taken to reach out to the children via the WhatsApp, the video, and the Zoom fellowship that they used to have. And I want to say to all other churches who are listening, in particular the Anglican churches, this season we have come to is one that we cannot do without social media. Please, if you have your youth, they want to have fellowship with Zoom, they want to have a fellowship with FaceTime, with whatever medium. Please, I think we must support it and make sure that we are able to reach out. I think for all churches, I don't think we should stop our online streaming with the end of this easing down. Now it has come to a time that we have church without walls. The people from UK will join us at the same time, and Canada, they can know what is happening. So I think it has come to a time we have come to this season where what we are now is not about church, about BAM church, about so and so diocese. It is now about the whole world. Church without walls. And I pray that our team, in fact, let me thank my COVID-19 media team, that please, guys, will continue to do this. And I pray that God will bless us. Okay, quickly, as we are rounding up, we'll just take this question. What are the sources of anxiety as seen in health professionals during this pandemic?
Thank you very much, sir. Before I touch on that, I just want to quickly add, as an offshoot of what you said, I think we should see online services as an opportunity. For instance, in my society, in the Anglican Church, some of the elderly people, when they become older, they move to the village and they are not able to come to church anymore. Now, they have that opportunity to still fellowship in BAM Church, even though they may have moved to their villages. So I think even though COVID has brought some challenges, it has also brought some opportunities as well. Now, anxiety among healthcare professionals, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. I think it's even better now when the COVID infection, first of all, came to play. The healthcare professionals were the ones that were most at risk. They were more likely to come down with COVID and were actually dying of COVID. I have colleagues that have died of COVID. So the anxiety is real. It's there. But however, what we have seen over the last few weeks and months is that people who wear protective equipment the right way do not come down with COVID while treating their patients. So I think for a lot of us as healthcare professionals, we've had to undergo in the past few weeks a series of training and retraining. We cannot necessarily continue to have business as usual, whereby you are close to your patient, you're not wearing gloves, and there's so many things we used to do before that we may not be able to do in this current era. But we do know that there is protection, i.e., when we wear the right equipment, that works. The other challenge that healthcare professionals have had and are still having is that problem of infecting people at home. And we see that. A doctor or a nurse or a physiotherapist or anybody, coming in contact with patients, remembering that some of these patients do not appear to have COVID when they come in to the doctor. We need to remember that sometimes the patient can come with anything. It could be any disease that doesn't, it may not even be anything that has to do with cough or sore throat or fever. It might be something, it might be an accident, it might be he hurt his toe or anything like that. And the patient may inadvertently have COVID. And that has been definitely a source of anxiety, because we know that the healthcare professionals are not only afraid for themselves, they are afraid for the people in their homes, because the people in their homes are at risk. But like I said, in recent times, trainings about personal protective equipment, wearing them properly, using them properly, has helped to reduce his anxiety and also helped to reduce infections among healthcare professionals.
Thank you. Now, as we go about the closing session of this, Brother Mioke, what's your closing remark as we bring this session to a close?
Okay, so let me close with this. First of all, this is not a period for us to continue habits like alcohol intake, smoking. So you need to quit smoking. If you are a smoker, you need to also reduce or totally stop the intake of alcohol. Also, being at home during this pandemic has made some people work from home. So another important thing we should take home is the issue of posture. I was opportunity to see a patient about 2-3 weeks ago that was having issues with the neck because he had to work from home, and working on a laptop for hours, you have to bend like this, and you don't know it has adverse effects over time. And even the way you sit, the way you bend to lift things and all. So you need to get the right information and the right education about your posture, so you don't come down with the risk of musculoskeletal injuries. And I think we'll all be happy, and we should just try to stay safe also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Lukoya, please, can give us a closing statement?
Thank you, sir. In parting, I'd like to say COVID infection is real. It's in our world today, and it has changed our world in unimaginable ways. However, I don't think we need to be afraid of COVID. I like to use these words. We don't fear COVID, you respect COVID. There's a difference between fear and respect. By respecting COVID, you need to know that COVID exists, but there are some things you can do to reduce your chances of infection to virtually zero. And if there's anything that I want the viewers to remember here today, 2 things that are of paramount importance: physical distancing. Don't move close to people, because the closer you move to people, the more likely you're going to get infected, or you could get infected. Secondly, as much as possible, let us keep our hands clean, and as much as possible, keep your hands away from your face. This is not a time, oh, my nose is scratching me, let me scratch it. Oh, my eye is scratching me. Oh my. Those are some habits that we know make people more likely to have COVID. So keep your hands clean as often as you can, and keep your hands away from your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. And we believe God will protect all of us and see us through these turbulent times so that we can emerge victorious on the other side. Amen.
Okay, I just want to say to you, esteemed viewers, that the gospel of Christ is potent and alive in our time. God has said, I am the God that healeth thee. And particularly for our brethren who have been infected with COVID, one of the message today to you is that it is not a death sentence. And that I want you to have that assurance that your God can heal you, that He will restore you back. And I pray today for you that the hand of God, the healing power of God will come upon you. For those who are at the various isolation centers, one way you're watching us, we are also in prayers with you that you will come back home safely, that you will live and you will not die, that you will come and share your testimony of this. And esteemed viewers, please, like we are saying, please let us keep safe. Wash your hands regularly. observe physical distancing, and all the things we have talked about today. And I pray that this season will pass and that we all have a new song and a new testimony to share. Let me appreciate once again our esteemed guests who have honored this invitation. Let me start from our brother, Mr. Damilola Ashaju, a physiotherapist. Thank you so much for joining us. And also Dr. Mrs. Kemi Udukoya. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Associate Professor. I want to thank you for the wealth of experience you have shared with us. The Lord will bless you. I must also appreciate members of our medical team, ably led by Dr. Ruben Oshaw. I want to say a very big thank you to you for the great work you are doing in our church. The Lord will going to bless you and members of your team. We want to say to you that the Lord will reward you. Like Doctor has said, we're going to pray that God will take away risk and anxiety from you. The Lord will keep you all safe in the name of Jesus. I can't forget but to thank our youth who have been behind this, our chaplain, Reverend David Ogumbi. Thank you. My media team, my COVID-19 media team, and behind the scene. Thank you so much. We hope to see you sometimes again with this series. Thank you all, and God will going to bless you. God will keep us safe in Jesus' name. Thank you.